Welcome, Shelley. Welcome, Kathy. I'm really,
Thank
really
you.
glad that you are here. I believe this is a story of friendship, of love, of tenacity, of perseverance. So, if the two of you would share with us the beginning of your story together.
Kathy, you want to start?
I do, because you don't remember it.
It's true.
My family moved from Indianapolis to Schaumburg, Illinois, and we moved onto the street where Shelley and her family lived. And I heard moving over there that there was a girl my age on the block. So I waited a few days and hoping she'd come welcome me, but she didn't. So I marched over there and knocked on the door, and her mom warmly welcomed me in and took me up to Shelley's room. And she was sitting in this low chair reading The Hobbit. And I remember that because I didn't come from a family that read much. So I didn't know anything about the book, but she quickly told me all about it. And it just kind of filled me in that she was just full of magic. And so then, like, from that day forward, we have been joined at the hip, like, all through life, and lived far apart the whole time. But it was just like that. Yeah.
So
We, Go ahead.
I'm not gonna ask you what year it was, but how old were you both when you met each other?
12.
12 years old. So at 12 years old, Shelley, you're reading The Hobbit.
Oh, absolutely. I read it several times. It was a
Love it.
staple in my life. Yeah, and then Kathy and I went on to conquer high school together as cheerleaders, which was one of the highlights of our lives. I mean, we came home, we ran all the way home, and it was probably a mile and a half, and said something like, "I'll never be unhappy again." And, in the, yeah,
Yeah.
just being naive and young. And
So Kathy, what did you do after high school?
I ended up working in marketing and communications. I did corporate work, and I ended up moving around the country for my work, mainly in the Midwest. And so that was my day job. But I began in 1991. I felt this pull toward doing work of helping people use creative tools to work through big things that they were going through in their lives. And I had a fine art degree, and I brought art into it, but I've always done writing. And so I brought a lot of writing into it. And I worked with every imaginable kind of group, from having cancer and AIDS to heart disease to battered women to people going through grief. And so that's what I did in my line of work. And a few years after I started doing that, my mom died, and it was really hard. It was a very hard time for me, and I had never felt grief like that. So what I did is I wrote letters to my mother after her death, because she had had a very short battle with cancer, and um, we didn't really get to communicate, at all before she died. And I wanted her to know this is what, like, witnessing your journey was like for me. And I wanted to feel that she could hear me. So I wrote to her. And then a while later, I got the feeling that she wanted to write back. And so that part of the writing journey for me became the game changer. It blew me wide open, and it made me feel like I had just a direct back and forth connection with my mom. So all of that happened before Shelley, went through the loss of Ryder, which you were talking early in the program about how, looking back, you see how the dots connect. I mean, I couldn't have been more prepared to help her with this. So that's like just a magical little piece of our story, but yeah.
And really, that's a gift of your mother.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So Shelley, I know you went to Illinois State University and you met a really fascinating friend there.
Yes, I did. I met Patty Poston, now Bridge, and I know she's a friend of yours too, which is how we came to be friends. She was my roommate in college and has stayed like family. Some of those friends really stick, and she's like a sister.
So I have shared this with folks as I've been promoting tonight. My wife, Trish, knew hundreds and hundreds of people, and honestly, every single person was her friend. But I would say she had 5 or 6 people in her inner circle. And Patty, who Shelley just mentioned, was in Trish's inner circle. I'm sure she's still in Trish's inner circle. And when Shelley and I and Patty started talking about this, Patty said that she, Shelley, and Trish had lunch together more than once. That I can't tell you what that does to my heart.
Yeah, it's amazing. This is a divine connection.
It is a divine connection. So, Shelley, I call this series Life, Death, and the Road to Healing. I've been working with people who are living with the death of someone they love. I've been doing it for 10 years, over 10 years. I've written 2 books. My first book is called Permission to Mourn, came out in 2015. The subtitle intentionally is A New Way to Do Grief. My second book came out 2 years ago. It's called Becoming Radiant. It's kind of bold. It's kind of bold to suggest that those of us that are living with the death of someone we love can actually become radiant. But I believe that when we do grief a new way, that gives us the opportunity. It's actually the invitation to do life a new way, and we can step into our radiance. So what dawned on me is that we're a really visual society, and many, many people learn best when we can paint them a picture. So tonight, the intention is, with your help, Shelley, and your help, Kathy, is to paint a picture of your life, Shelley. We know you went to ISU. I know what you did after that. I know about your family, but paint the picture of life being wonderful, 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 and happy, and you're so fulfilled and grateful. We want to know that first.
Okay, well, right after college, I started working downtown Chicago as an art director, which was great because I also had an art degree. And but I always had in my head that I wanted to work for Disney Studios. I mean, when I say always, I mean from the time I was a little girl. Walt died when I was 10, and I thought, now I'm never going to meet him. And I also thought, what's going to happen to the studio? So I had the intent at age 10. By the time I was 25 and I wore a Disney pin in my lapel every day, I had the opportunity to move to California, and I took it. And I came out and got a job at Disney, where I met my husband, and I was just in the middle of the magic that I'd always imagined, that I had always lived in. You know, the rocks talked to me, the animals talked to me. It was a magical life, as Kathy pointed out. Met the man who became my husband. He was an animator, and I was an assistant director in animation. And we went on bike rides. We rode our bikes across the country. And that kind of sealed the deal. That was when we decided to get married. And very quickly started having children. Ryder was our first. And we raised the boys with as much magic as we could. Christmas was an extravaganza. Chris says it looks like Christmas threw up all over our house. And Easter baskets were attached to long balls of yarn, and the boys would have to go around the yard and the house to find their baskets. We just filled their lives with magic as much as we possibly could. And Chris working at Disney still, I stayed home to be a mom, kept that coming. We studied the gorillas when he was directing Tarzan, and surfing and skateboarding came into play when he was doing Tarzan and Surf's Up. And we just, Pocahontas, we studied Native American tales. I have bookshelves full of children's books that backed up the things that Chris was working on and immersing himself in, so that I did that at home.
So your oldest son's name is Ryder. What are your other two boys' names?
Then I had Woody 2.5 years later. And then 4 years after Woody came Reed. And Reed was the storm I expected when I started having boys. I expected Ryder to be this exuberant, all-out boy, football playing wild thing. He was absolutely the opposite. He was a calm, introspective old soul who kept himself busied with his little dinosaur toys and played music, though not with any ability. He just would pick up an instrument that we had lying around the house and pretend to play at it. And this is when he was 6. He was young, but he was always listening. So what year
was Ryder born?
He was born in 1990.
Okay. Go ahead. I interrupted you about Woody.
Oh, and then Woody was born, this kind of sparkly, magical, joyful little elf of a child. I still didn't have my tornado. I had this magical guy who knew from the time he was in preschool that he wanted to be a performer. And he had his first dance recital, and we gave him some flowers, and he struck this pose and said, "I love my work." And I just thought, where are you coming from? You're 4 years old. But that was Woody, and he did go on to study musical theater at the University of Michigan and move to New York City to pursue his dreams. So, and then Reed was the storm. Reed came out kicking and fighting and climbing his way to the top, and has just been a stitch from the very beginning. He's a funny kid. He's doing comedy writing right now in college in order to get a job in television writing. So he's
So you referred to Ryder as an old soul.
yes.
What do you remember, like, when did it dawn on you that he was an old soul? And where did that term come from? I mean, did you grow up talking about who was and who wasn't an old soul?
No, it just occurred to me. I'll tell you, when Ryder was an infant, I mean, just a baby, I would go in with all of my exuberance and say, "Good morning, Ryder," and he would just cringe and be like, "No, Mom, no, not chill," which became his favorite word as an adult. But he entertained himself. Like I said, he was observant, and I felt like he had an intuition about people that followed him from preschool or before that all the way through his life. He always had a really good sense of who was a good soul and who to connect himself with. So those friends that he made in preschool lasted his lifetime. And
do you think if I had met him and if I asked him if he thought he was an old soul, how do you think he would have responded?
I think he probably would have said yes. I think he was self-aware enough. He certainly was self-aware. And yeah, I think he would have said absolutely.
So what was high school like for him?
High school was water polo, which was kind of my choice. It was either water polo or PE, which was boring. And I foresaw, he was a big kid. I foresaw him getting drafted onto the front line of the football team if he didn't get into the pool. And no offense to anybody who plays football, but I didn't want him on the front line. So he played water polo. He accidentally got himself into choir. So that was his first foray onto the stage. And he did not want to do it, but he did, because there were other water polo players in choir, and he found that he could sing, and he really enjoyed the music, as he always had. And then he eventually picked up a guitar while he was in high school and started learning to play. And that became his passion, as dinosaurs had been when he was little. So,
Are either you or your husband musical?
my husband can sing. He's picked up the ukulele recently, but I am absolutely not. I'm a visual artist, and my ears don't serve me that way. So,
So would you say, in retrospect, did Ryder enjoy high school?
oh yes, I would. It's always tough. It's tough in different ways. There were girls that came in and out of the picture. There were struggles with really being interested in all of the subjects, but we had pretty high standards at our house, so we expected performance academically, and he did a pretty good job of it.
And what would he do during the summers?
Summers was water polo.
Okay.
Water polo year round, and he played a little soccer. He started playing soccer with friends, just pickup games. But yeah, we were consumed with water polo. It was 7 days a week.
And then what did he do after high school?
After high school, he went up to Sonoma State and took his guitar with him, and found that it was a chick magnet. So he spent a lot of time in the jacuzzi and playing songs and attracting the girls, and not doing very much study. So he lasted a year there, and then we brought him home, and he went to a junior college nearby and took pottery and other inconsequential non-academics. And then finally, he found a music school in Hollywood called Musicians Institute, and that was his blossoming. So it was a couple years into college when he really found his footing. And he took songwriting classes, and he took guitar classes, and really, really blossomed.
Do you
So
remember,
that was,
do you remember how he found that school?
I don't. It suddenly came on our radar. He did his research, and he still has, well, he got friends from that school and put them in his band. He formed a band, and just continued to play, and they're still playing together. Some of them have dispersed across the country, but every once in a while they'll come back together here and play a gig. And Reed sings Ryder's parts now, because Reed and Woody were both also in choir.
So I love the word chill. That was one of Ryder's favorite words. So while he was at Sonoma State playing the guitar and hanging out in the jacuzzi, and then when he moved home, went to the junior college and took pottery, was he pretty chill about that whole experience?
Oh, absolutely. It was all good. Don't worry about it, Mom. It's cool. It's going to be fine. And eventually it was.
So the music school in Hollywood, was that, did he get a degree or a certificate or?
Well, he would have, but the cancer came, and he had to drop out, and he was going to go back, and I think he did go back his final semester, and he was in that final semester when he passed.
So how old was he when, as you said, the cancer came?
22.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes. He called me one day. I was painting a mural down at the high school, and he said, "I have good news and bad news, Mom." I'm like, "All right, give me the bad news." "Well, I have cancer." Okay. Well, what do we do about this? So we pursued it relentlessly and called in all of our contacts and found some great recommendations for doctors and got him in at USC. And he had surgery a week after he was diagnosed, and it was testicular cancer, and then started right away with chemo. And he would be in the hospital for a full week and then out for 2, where he recovered and then did other wild things in between his treatments.
So would you say, was he pretty chill about that?
He was very grounded. He took it, I don't want to say took it like a man. He probably was enduring it, but it didn't seem like it. He was going along with the protocol, and he took his books and he took his guitar with him, and played music for the nurses and played music on his computer and just let him have his arm for the pokes and the prods, and then came home and would spend, a couple days on the couch recovering, and then he'd be off and running. He'd go camping and down to the beach and anything that filled his heart with joy is what he did.
So when he was diagnosed at 22, what was the prognosis?
It was good, because they said testicular cancer is very treatable, and they caught it early and got it out. And but it had metastasized. They called it stage 4. It was in his lungs. They thought it might be in his lymph nodes. So the doctor actually called it stage D, which I think was to throw me off the track, because everybody knows what stage 4 is. So I got wise to that pretty quickly, and I realized we had a tough road ahead of us.
And how would you say his diagnosis and the treatment affected the whole family?
Well, Reed thought he was going to die on the operating table, which I didn't know until months later, or maybe weeks. I had no idea he was that kind of concerned. I cried. Of course, it was kind of shock. You don't know what to do with in the first place, but then you start digging in and doing the research, and my husband was completely wrapped up in Frozen. He was working overtime, and so most of the research and contacts fell to me. And my other son, Woody, was away at college in Michigan. So he was kind of out of it and didn't really experience it fully. And he still has a time with the whole process because he was absent for it.
So even though it was stage 4 testicular cancer, and you Googled it and you read everything I would assume there was to read about it, were you hopeful? And was the plan that together we're going to beat this and Ryder's going to go on to live a full, joyful, chill life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We never discussed death. I didn't want it to take hold. I didn't want to give it a foothold. I'm sure he thought about it. I mean, the changes in him started to be apparent right away as he was facing his own mortality as a very young man. He became introspective, spiritual, a seeker. But the rest of us were just buckled down for the battle and went on about cleaning the house and clearing the refrigerator and making sure everything was the absolute best it could be, getting rid of all the pesticides. we immersed ourselves in it.
And was he living with you during his treatment?
Oh, yes, yes.
So you said he became a seeker. What did that look like for Ryder?
He was an avid reader, and so he picked up so many books. I can't begin to name them all, but they were spiritual books. He found teachers of all different walks of life, all different faiths, and he took it all in. Yeah, that's.
So when you were growing up, Shelley, was religion or spirituality a part of your upbringing?
Not really. Not really. My grandfather had been a minister, and my uncle as well. But it kind of fell away in my generation. My dad didn't really want to go to church, and my mom wasn't really up for pushing it. So I had nature, and that was my church.
So you and Chris get married, you have kids. Was church or spirituality a part of your family of five's life?
We tried. I joined the local church and took the kids for Sunday school for a while, but we would rather go for a bike ride or down to the beach on a Sunday morning, as a family. So we did a lot of that.
So would Ryder share what he was reading with you? Would he share these new thoughts and new discoveries?
He did. He was a quiet kid, but every once in a while he'd really open up to me, and he talked about these teachings and recommend the books. And at one point, after the cancer treatment was over, he insisted we read Proof of Heaven. Mm. And this was one that he really, really spoke to him. And so my husband and I both read it that summer, and it ended up being very impactful as our life went on.
Is that the one by Eben Alexander? The neurosurgeon?
Yes. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. Kathy keeps track of the authors for me.
Yeah.
I read it. Yeah.
Well, I think what's powerful about that book, it's a well-educated, well-respected physician who absolutely did not believe in an afterlife. Mm-hmm. Has an experience, and to say he soars would be an understatement.
Right.
So did you actually talk with Ryder about his thoughts regarding that book?
No, he took off for Bali that summer. He just insisted we read it, and then he was off. So he was gone for a month.
What was the intention to go to Bali?
He found a music class at a local college and really, really, really wanted to go. Now, I was getting used to the long leash and maybe no leash on him that I had to adopt during the cancer treatment. And I said, well, we'll see how you're doing. But it became apparent that this was something he really needed. And he had to not be cancer boy anymore. He had to go reinvent himself, be in a new culture, be with new people. And so we said, sure.
And how many months was this after the initial diagnosis?
This was about 10 months later. So he had finished his treatment in May, and he was diagnosed at the end of August 2012, and he finished up in May 2013. And then the month of July, in fact, he was in Bali on his birthday.
When's his birthday?
June 30th.
And
that's the day we launched the book.
So June 30th, 2013, how old was he?
23.
And was it hard for you to say, sure, go off to Bali?
It was very hard for me. We'd been attached at the hip. through the entire cancer journey. I was there every day that he was in the hospital, and the doctor would roll his eyes as if to say, "You're here again, still?" But yes, I was there, and sometimes I would leave and give Ryder some solitude, but we've been very, very close, and it was really hard to let him go. If I had known I was going to lose him a few months later, I don't know if I could have let him go, but it was the right thing at the time.
Did you hear from him during that month?
Yes, but the first thing he did was dunk his phone in the ocean. So lost all his pictures, and I heard from him intermittently on Facebook. But we didn't hear from him a lot, and I was fine with that. I really wanted him to have his space and not be tied to home and all that home represented.
So when he left for Bali, what was the thought about the testicular cancer?
Oh, it was over.
It was over.
It was just over. We were done and on to the next part of life.
And he had a clean bill of health.
Clean bill of health. The doctor did an extra round, which I never told Ryder. It was just for insurance, the doctor said. But if I had told Ryder, there wouldn't have been an extra round. So they cleared him and said he was good to go. Of course, there would be follow-up appointments every 3 months and then every 6 months, but we never got there.
So this is a brand new beginning, a new lease on life for Ryder. Kicks it off by going to Bali.
Yeah.
Kind of exciting.
Yes.
So he came home, and what was that like?
Oh my gosh. If I thought he was a chill character before that, he was so mellow. I mean, just meditative. He wore a flower behind his ear all the time. It was a tradition he picked up over there. He got together with his band and they played, but he did a lot of meditating. He'd go up on the mountaintop, he'd go down to the beach, he'd go out in the backyard. And you could tell that the activity in our house, call it chaos if you will, really rancored him. He had a hard time with it. He would come in from the beach or wherever smelling like sage and just get all verklempt of just being home in the activity. And remember, Reed was a storm, so they were at loggerheads a lot of times.
And did he stay living with you?
Yes. Yeah. He had no job. He was a student and he'd just been through a year of chemo. So yeah, he was at home.
And was the hope, the plan that whenever the next semester or the next series of classes started, he would go back?
Oh, yes. Yes. That fall.
So then what happened?
Oh, well, it's about 6 months after he was cleared of chemo. You want the story of the accident? Is that what you're getting at? Okay. Ryder was out. He'd been recording for his first album and surfing and taking yoga. And he'd spent a good 24 to 36 hours out living life and grabbing everything he could. And he was coming home at about 4 a.m. and his car broke down on the side of the freeway. And he pulled it off the freeway onto a side road. So he had the wherewithal to take care of that and get it off the road. And then he started walking home. And I had 2 calls on my phone at about 4:18 and 4:19 that were blocked calls. And I don't know if that's what you get from a call box or what, but he didn't have his phone with him. And it was found in his car. And I missed those calls because my ringer was off, which it's never off, but somehow it was off. And he was hit by 2 cars walking on the freeway, and going about 75 miles an hour through this dense fog. It was just pitch black out there. You couldn't even see in front of you at 8 o'clock in the morning with the sun up. So that was it. The police came to the door and Reed and I were taken to the hospital.
And do you remember what the police said?
They said, your son's been in an accident. And I asked them how he was. They didn't know or couldn't say, wouldn't say. But their job was to take us to the hospital. My husband was in New York. Woody was at school. And Reed was home with me. So
did they literally drive you to the hospital?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
What was it like then to pull up at the hospital?
I was absolutely out of my mind. I had no idea how he was. Of course, I thought, well, whatever it is, we'll fix it. We've been through cancer. You know, he's going to be okay. I wouldn't let it cross my mind that he could have died. But Reed was right there beside me, and it was a pretty silent ride.
So when you got to the hospital, was someone there to meet you?
They took us into a waiting area. There was no one else there. And I think it may have been after the doctor came. The social worker came, and but we waited for 2 hours for the doctor. And then he came and he explained everything, all the ways that Ryder was broken from head to toe, and all of the things that they did, and that it wasn't enough. And yeah,
so
that was
you and your son waited 2 hours, and the news that the doctor delivered to you was that they tried to save Ryder, but that they weren't successful, that Ryder had passed?
Right.
Let's take a deep breath.
Thank you.
So when did you reach out to your friend Kathy?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It had to be that day. I remember so little. The house was swarming with people. My sister made phone calls. Did Leslie call you, Kathy, or did I?
You did, and I happened to be driving, and I couldn't talk, and you said, well, get home and call me back. And I kind of felt like there was something going on, but, you know, would have had no way of knowing what. But yeah, when I got home, I called back and heard all about it.
So where were you living at that time, Kathy?
I was in Indiana, back home again in Indiana. State song. Yeah.
So you had a memorial service or a funeral, Shelley?
Yes, it was a celebration of life. Before I'd ever heard that term, that was what we called it. We had everyone wear their Hawaiian garb if they felt like it. We gave out flowers to wear behind your ear. My friends took care of every detail. There was a table with sand and his flip-flops and shells and things that just said Ryder as you walked in. And we had some little cards, which is really a good thing because a lot of stories from those cards for people to write stories and memories of Ryder on went into the book. So
when did it occur to you that there would be a book?
People talked about it. They said, I was keeping a Caring-Bridge journal from the minute the Ryder was diagnosed with cancer until 5 years after he passed, when Kathy and I started working on the book. Everyone said, oh, Shelley, you've got to write a book. This is great. You're a good writer, blah, blah, blah. I got a message from Ryder after he passed that he wanted me to write his story.
I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Tell us more about the message that you got from Ryder that he wanted you to write his story.
Well, this is pretty miraculous. He had made a friend of ours from animation who was kind of a spiritual mentor. They had coffee and had long talks through his chemo and through the summer. And she's wonderful, well-read, and a real magical person, and is very connected to the other side. And she would get dreams, kind of faxes in dreams, and wake up in the middle of the night and type it out the way she saw it, and then send it to me the next day. So I got a lot of communications through her from Ryder, and that was one of them.
Did you know she had this gift before Ryder passed?
She had lost her mother, and we got some stories from her mother from the other side. So she didn't like to use it. She didn't like to talk about it. She was very private about it, but it was something that just happened, and she couldn't hold back. She's a good friend, and she knew that it would mean something to me, so she shared.
Do you remember how you felt the first time she shared that she had gotten this fax from Ryder?
I was elated. Anything from Ryder put me over the moon, and for just a brief day or two, I felt connected. I felt like he was right here. These are the things that got me through, because we had a good deal of communication with him.
So, do you use the word G-O-D?
I do. I haven't always. When I was young, I had a hard time putting a meaning to it because, like I said, we didn't really go to church. But as I grew and educated myself, I found a definition that suited me. And, you know, you can call him God or any number of other synonyms that are used throughout the world. And that works for me.
What definition works for you?
What is God? Okay. God is love. God is in the trees and the bugs and the birds and the flowers. That's God's artwork on earth. But God is love and light and just that good, warm feeling that you get inside.
Did Ryder use the word G-O-D?
Oh, yes.
He did?
Yeah. And he used all the other ones too, because he was studying other religions.
How about you, Kathy? Do you use G-O-D?
Well, I do, but kind of casually. I mean, I have my definition of God. There's part that I don't really get. The part I get is that I just perceive God to be the force in the universe, you know, the energy that's behind everything and within everything. And so I never related to the sort of human qualities that people give God, but yeah, I acknowledge that.
So, Shelley, clearly you believe that Ryder can communicate with you.
Undeniably, yeah.
Prior to his death, did you feel that when we passed over, we could communicate with those that were still here? Or was that something new because it was so personal and intimate?
No, I had gone to a medium after my father passed when I was in my 30s. He never met my husband, never met my children. So it was before I was married. And I had pretty remarkable communications with him, my grandmothers, and several other people that this medium couldn't have known anything about. And so, yes, I believe that was available to us if we could access it and make ourselves available.
Do you use the word heaven?
Do I? I don't know, maybe casually. I believe that there's a space and time, if it's not a place, that there's a bliss that people find sometimes in little moments on earth and sometimes in a way of life. But I believe that's where we end up, is in our own bliss.
So if I were to ask you, which I'm going to, where is Ryder right now? Where is he?
Ryder's right here beside me. He is wherever he needs to be. He shows up for friends who are going through something difficult that they're not sure what to do. He's everywhere.
So is Ryder lost?
No, and I've taken a note from you, because I used to say when I lost my son, but I never really lost him. And so the mental gymnastics and verbal games we have to go through in order to, I don't say died because it feels too final. I say passed because it implies an inertia into another life. But those are the games, the gymnastics that we play. Yeah.
So it's clear that the two of you wrote a book. Tell us the name of the book, and do you have a copy of it we can see?
Oh, I do. Kathy, where's yours?
Mine's right here. Well, mine's back on the bookshelf and right here.
So Leave Your Light On. Tell us about the title and tell us where we can get the book.
Okay. Kathy, you want to take this?
Sure. The title is actually the name of the first song that Ryder wrote. And when Shelley and I started out with this book, it was based on, her journal. So kind of a linear path through everything that happened. And she got encouragement to try to turn it into more of a narrative. And when we did that, we decided that rather than focus on, what happened to Ryder, we wanted to focus on Ryder's light. The kid who wrote this song lived a life that was just, he had his light on all the time, even if he was being, dumb, which he could be. But
or maybe especially when he was being.
Well, especially maybe, yeah. But anyway, that was a real turning point in the writing journey because it felt like more what Ryder would want this book to be, kind of a representation of what he figured out so early in life. At 23, to have understood that you have so much power and you can be so happy if you can just get yourself to light up and stay lit up and do whatever it takes to make that happen. And so that's how that happened. And the book is on Amazon.
Oh, you have to say what it's called.
Oh, Leave Your Light On. Leave Your Light On. Yes.
And what's, if we, I love the word magic. Magic has been a huge part of your life. If we could wave a magic wand over this book, what's your hope and your dream for this book that you've released into the universe? Both of you.
Okay. Well, I wanted to reach as many people as possible. There are several audiences for this book. One is clearly grieving parents, then parents who are raising children through the difficult times of, they're all difficult times in their own way, but especially when a child is separating and becoming their own. This has some great insights, I think. And then Ryder's peers have really responded in a way in that it's hopeful and inspirational. So I think we've got several audiences, and clearly those grieving are foremost, but it applies to others as well. Did you have something to add, Kat?
No, I mean, I just think there's a healing power in what Ryder did with his light and his music, but in the legacy he left. And, you know, people of all ages are reading it and saying, oh my gosh, it makes me feel like I want to be a better person. Like I want to, you know, I want to do more. And I think that's in the current climate we're in right now. The more people can find the inspiration to be in their happy place and to be well, you know, I think Ryder can really help with that.
I'm sure this hasn't been lost on either one of you, but as the story of Ryder unfolded through both of you, so he's diagnosed with testicular cancer. He becomes a seeker. He explores all the major religions. He takes this, he takes that, he takes this, he takes that. He goes to Bali and practically levitates for a month. He comes back and is chill to the nth degree, and he's living large, loving life, surfing, meditating, making his music. Absolutely everything that a 23-year-old would want to do.
Right.
And then he leaves his physical body. You know, he returns to source. He goes back to love. He goes to the light. What I would love to know is, it's like, as he was in the process of leaving his body, I wonder if he was surprised.
I have a story about that. He told another psychic, a different one, who did a little bit of mediumship, but didn't really want to continue. So we've lost touch. But he told her that he was out of his body before the accident happened. And he watched it like a movie from the side of the road. That gave me peace because I knew there was no pain and because he was already on his way.
So my definition of God is similar to yours in that I was raised Catholic, and my tired joke is, luckily, the Catholics know nothing about the Bible. Nothing. It's like we got no need for the Bible. But I do know that the Bible says God is love. That's my biblical quote. And I do believe that God is a love that is beyond any human comprehension, similar to the love that Dr. Alexander experienced in Proof of Heaven. And when I really, really think about how, as a single parent, I loved my son Rory and I loved my son Sean, if I multiply that by a billion, I believe, yes, that love grasped Ryder out of his physical body before the impact. Love grasped my son Rory out of his physical body before he died of the glioblastoma. The same with my wife, Trish. The same with my daughter, Erin. The same with your mom, Kathy. That's what love is. Love does not stand by and allow that which it's love to feel the bullet or to feel the noose or to feel whatever the actual mode of death is. I think that that's true for all of us, and that brings me incredible comfort.
Definitely.
So the relationship with Ryder obviously continues.
Yes.
How would you define, because I know people will ask, I mean, I loved that you said he's right here. He's right here with me now. Do you see him? Do you hear him? Do you feel him?
I feel him, and you know, it's more prominent to me when he's not around than when he is around, because it seems like he's always around. We talk every night when I go to bed, but we, you know, sometimes I'll get quiet and do a little meditation and invite him in, and I'll turn to him when I'm in a state of excitement or tension or something, and I get the chill message, you know. And I know he's been present for Kathy during the writing. So
even before that, you know, this is really, I was just looking at the book and thinking about before we ever really even talked about the book, I was in my bathroom, which is where I get a lot of spiritual visits, and looking in the mirror. And I kept hearing, leave your light on, leave your light on, leave your light on, over and over and over. And I knew he had written a song by that title, but I couldn't shake it. And so I called Shelley and I said, well, this is what's happening. Does this mean anything like special to you other than I know that he wrote the song? And she's like, the day before, she had just turned off his lava lamp in his bedroom after, you know, years after he died, after he passed. And she just felt like she should turn it off. And so she turned it back on once she heard from me. But I was thinking maybe he was just whispering the title to me long before I would ever really know what to do with it. So.
When did you guys decide that he would be credited as a co-author of the book?
We were a little ways into it, weren't we?
Well, yeah, we were. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew it would always be Shelley and Kathy because Kathy just brings so much to it, and it's only right. But then we put a lot of Ryder's writing in it, and the more we found to include, well, the more it seemed obvious that, and because he had been there right with us through the writing of it, it was just the right thing.
Yeah, sometimes you just know.
Mm-hmm.
So would both of you say, has Ryder from the other side helped bring that magic back into both of your lives?
Oh my gosh. Yes, because he's given me permission to live. He's accompanied me so that I could find joy again. Of course, I have the other two boys, and they were what kept me off the floor in the very beginning. But yes.
Well, and you know, when we were writing, I mean, I was at my writing table, you know, for hours, really every day for a very long time. And every time I got ready to work on the book, I purposefully, you know, connected with him. And so I had that light blasting into me like over and over and over and over. And I swear it changed me. Like, you know, working on this and helping to tell his story and making sure that I was doing, you know, what he would want. Oh yeah, it definitely changed me with more light. And he's a comforting soul too. He's very comforting. He's very funny, and he's very chill. So I feel that energy, and definitely think that the book is really the symbol of what it did for Shelley and I both.
Yeah.
Are you guys up for taking questions from the folks that are listening?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, so if you have a question for Shelley, if you have a question for Kathy, if you have a question for both of them, type it in the comments and I'd be very, very happy to speak on your behalf. Gail said, I absolutely love, love, love the title.
Oh.
She also said, sounds like a book I need to buy for Sean's brother. Very inspiring. Thank you for writing it. That's an interesting. Have you heard from folks that that siblings of someone who has passed have read it and have found comfort in it?
Oh, absolutely. It's not limited to the loss of a child or death of a child. It's definitely, I've had people who've talked about just today, my father, my brother, my husband's brother, anybody who's suffered a loss, and it actually doesn't even have to be the loss of a loved one. It can be the loss of great wealth, or we're all going through a grieving process right now for the lives we had 6 months ago. So I think
it speaks to many, many, many audiences.
Yeah.
So Daryl said, I read the book in one day. What I loved is that Ryder had a voice in it as much as anyone else. So you really got a sense of Ryder as a person through the book. In that way, he will always be alive. It's beautiful. And you have painted a phenomenal picture of your son.
Oh, thank you.
Jeannie said, thank you for sharing your story of love and hope. It is a story of love and hope and connection and continuation. And magic, really, if you think about it. Ryder sounds like an amazing soul. His beautiful light is still shining brightly through both of you. Rhonda said, this story is truly fundamental. I love the title. Glad to meet Ryder. I'll buy the book. My friend Dawn, what a spectacular story. This must be a friend of yours, Sean Moriarty.
Oh, yes. He was the drummer in Ryder's band.
Okay, this is what he wants to, this is directed at you, Shelley. Hey, Shelley, how much have you been practicing guitar?
Ryder also said he wanted me to learn guitar. That one hasn't happened. I did try for a while.
Well, let's just say it hasn't happened yet.
That's right.
There's a little argument going on about Dr. Eben Alexander. I'm not going to get into that. I've met the man. I've heard him speak.
Oh, wow.
He's absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Our friend Patty, what did the experience of writing the book do to or for your relationship, Shelley and Kathy?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, I'll take that one.
All right.
I'll start anyway. Because we've lived apart for so long, we were in touch, throughout the years, but, months might go by and we'd never talk because she had 3 kids. I had a busy career. And it was just, life. But from the day that we decided to work together on the book, we've spoken literally on the phone every single day, multiple times, and it's been over 2 years. So in my heart, our friendship has just blossomed into, new layers and new levels and a new sense of wonder about just how meant to be it all feels. Thank you for that, Patty. Good question.
And that really is a gift from Ryder himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It's really brought us not just closer, but it feels like a destiny that we've actually come to fruition. Kathy tried to get me to write letters to Ryder, haiku. I did 1 or 2, or, I dabbled in it. But when this project came up, we really did what she was meant to do, what she had been doing with her life. And
well, and I would say the coming together of the 3 of us is also part of that destiny as well.
Just amazing.
In full disclosure, I get contacted from many, many, many people every single day So our mutual friend Patty gave me your name. Of course, the very first thing I did was check your Facebook page. Who is this woman? And I kid you not, one of Shelley's Facebook friends is my Uncle Hank. I literally fell off the chair. My mother's sister's brother who passed away a couple of years. My mom
Wow.
talks with my Aunt Kate every single Monday night at 8:00. She lives in Sierra Madre. So, I mean, talk about destiny and talk about the universe saying, yes, 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 step forward, lean in, yes, 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 yes. And I think, if we could see with new eyes, with every breath we take, we would see those connections more and more and more.
Yeah.
So, Shelley, your cousin Laura said, I read the book in one day. She and Kathy wrote a wonderful job. I feel like I really got to know Ryder so much. Love you, Shelley. Jill said, thank you. Just ordered the book. Thank you, Jill. You can go to Amazon and order that book right now. Jamie, awesome to know Ryder through you both. I will read it soon. Linda, can't wait to read it. Lorraine, the title resonates with me. There's a song I listened to by Eminem with the verse, keep up the light on. Thank you for sharing your message. So where can folks go to hear more of Ryder's music?
Well, they can hear it on iTunes. It's listed both as Ryder Buck and Ryder Buck and the Breakers. You can also go to his website, ryderbuckmusic.com, and learn more about him, see some videos, hear some of his music. But he has 3 CDs that we produced after he passed, and they are available. Are they available on Amazon too? I think they might be, but definitely iTunes.
So Cam said, hi, Shelley. Would it be possible for you to share a picture of Ryder with us? Do you have a picture close by?
I have a picture on the back of the book. Is that showing up well?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And Cam, if you just scroll down on either one of my Facebook pages, I have shared many, many, many pictures of the whole family, and they're absolutely beautiful. They're magical. But thank you. Thank you. I think it's important that we say our loved ones' names and that we share pictures. I like this. Kat said, going to buy the book and share it with our older kids. You are all full of hope and love.
That's great.
It's the type of book that you could actually read together. It's an easy read. And it's a beautiful read, and you could read it, you could read a couple of pages and put it down in a couple of pages. I think that'd be cool to read it with your family and talk about it. This is my friend Maddie. I'm gonna preface this by saying, my son Sean is 25. He was 3 when his mom died. He was 13 when his brother died. And he grew up his whole life knowing that he had a sister that passed before he was even born. My son is intuitive, he's creative, he's confident, he's funny. He just bought his first house. He teaches special ed at the high school he grew up in. He absolutely loves it. And if you said to Sean Zuba, do you believe in God? He would say, hell to the no on that. Are you kidding me? Look at what happened to me. No, there is no God whatsoever. And if you said, do you feel your mother's presence or your brother's presence? He would go, are you nuts? No, I do not. I do not. So that's my 25-year-old's response. He knows what I do. He's fascinated by what I do. I always wanted him to go to Second City because he's a phenomenal comedian, and he has me down to a T, So having said all of that, Maddie said, do your other boys feel Ryder's presence as strongly as you do?
I would say not as strongly as I do, but they've both had encounters. They don't always talk about them, but once in a while I'll get a story. They're busy with their lives. I'm busy with my grief process, so it's kind of natural.
And I feel like our kids have their entire life to kind of process or not process
Mhm.
the death of their sibling.
Yeah.
So Catherine said, your story is full of magic. I agree. The title gives a great message, and I'm looking forward to reading the book. Claudia, I love the title of the book. It is not foreign to me now, as all of the children who transition too soon from cancer or an accident, they are old souls and meant to come to turn on the light in our lives and our hearts. And it is our job to leave the light on. Thank you. I will read your book, and I vision one day having mine written about my darling Emma. Thank you, Claudia. Love that. Patty shared, Patty's supporting you to the very end. Patty shared ryderbuckmusic.com, so they could just click on it right there. Thank you, Patty.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Patty.
Oh, this is sweet. Marilee Hamilton, so glad my daughter Barbara got me on this Zoom occasion. So great to be able to be included with you at this moment.
Oh, that's so nice. Hi, Marilee.
Yeah, Mary said this, there are so many incredible connecting layers here. Ryder's story and all of the relationships, not random. I agree. So you know Daryl Rooney?
Yes.
Yes. Ryder's life also seems like a story of destiny. There is a story Shelley wrote about the first time she took him outside and walked down the street. Shelley's experience then had impact much later.
Oh, that's true.
Buy the book and you'll find out more.
Did we include that? We included that in the book, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, that story's in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I want to bring the conversation to a close, and I'm wondering if there's one final message that's maybe from Ryder through you or from you that you would like to leave with the folks that are with us live and that the folks that will see this on the recording.
Go, Kathy.
I feel that, you know, what Ryder did with his life, leaving his light on, left his spirit was easy to see and feel because of that. And what that did, you know, I witnessed Shelley, like her light growing. And I think when you're going through the death of someone, it may help if you can think about your own light. Like the more you can turn your own light on, the easier it is to access the light of the one who died, which gives you that connection. So whether that came from me or Ryder, I don't know, but
Let me ask you this. How would you suggest, if you're able to, that we turn our light on and get it to shine as brightly as it possibly can?
well, I believe that just opening up to their energy does that for you. Open up to who they were, who you know, what you loved about them, what your just a full array of memories are. And the more you fill up with their light, the more you're filling you're encouraging the growth of your own light, which is only going to be healing.
So I appreciate you saying this, and I can hear people say, oh, but if I allow myself to sit quietly in a chair and I remember and I fill myself up with memories, I cry and cry and cry and cry. Is that what you want me to do? Cry and cry and cry? And my response to them is, crying is actually healing. So yes, I do want you to cry. But what would your response be?
Well, I mean, I agree that you have to cry. You just have to. But I think there's a shift that you make that elevates you out of that pain when you open up to the light of the one that you love so much. You know their energy, you know how they made you feel and why they were so important in your life. And when you open up to that, then it does, for me anyway, I can only say for me, but it lifts me up out of that difficult, repetitive pain that I know you go through when you're grieving.
And these are the words that I use to describe the very same thing. I believe that when we leave our physical body, we vibrate at a higher level. We vibrate at the level of light, of love. And it's not impossible, but it requires effort for them to kind of, swirl down so that they can connect with us. So the better I can raise my own vibrational level, it's exactly what you were saying. It's like I can kind of meet them halfway. And I can do that with intention and with a vision and with action. How do I raise my vibrational level to kind of meet theirs? And it's at that point, that's the point of power, where I see them, they see me.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Shelley, Ryder's mom.
Yes.
What's a parting message?
Well, I think we've covered it as far as the light. It's really important to stay connected. A little story. I was early in my grief, but I found myself in Hawaii with my youngest son, and a song came on. I was in a little shop, and a song came on that Ryder used to play, and tears started flowing. And I thought, I can block this. And then I thought, if you block it, you're blocking Ryder. You need to stay open and attach the joy of his memory to these things that trigger the memories. And so it was a turning point for me. So I intentionally stayed open to his memories and to his light. And it has made all the difference.
It's brought the magic back.
Yeah.
Thank you both for trusting me with your story.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for trusting me with your precious, precious son. Means a lot to me. Thank you, Patty, for opening the door.
Yes, thanks, Patty.
Yeah.
Special shout out.
So next Tuesday night, folks, my friend Susan, who wrote the A to Z Healing Toolbox, will be back. Next Tuesday is my mom's 88th birthday, September 1st. And it's kind of the unofficial end of summer and the beginning of fall. So Susan and I are planning a weekend online retreat. It's an online retreat, October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We're going to delve deeply into the tools that she offers in her book. And tomorrow night, Margot and Anna are back. Every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. for I think 4 more weeks, they're going to be here sharing what they do with all of you. So again, thank you both for spending time with us. One more time, hold up the book, which is available at Amazon. Leave your light on. Everybody, I'll see you Thursday night. We're going to do a Q&A, 7:30 p.m. Central. Take really, really good care of yourselves. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye. Thank you.
That was wonderful, Tom.
So hold on one second. We are off Facebook.